Zira opened her eyes, but she saw nothing. There was only darkness, thick, heavy, cold darkness pressing on her from all sides. She tried to move her arm, but her hand hit hard soil. She tried to breathe, but dirt slid into her mouth. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. But then the truth hit her like a knife. She was underground. Buried alive. Her heart pounded weakly inside her chest. She tried to scream, but only a small sound came out, too soft, too broken. Her voice was trapped under layers of soil. She wanted to push up, but her body refused. Her legs were paralyzed. She couldn't move them at all. She had lived her whole life like this, slow, dependent, unwanted. But she never imagined her own family would do this to her. The last thing she remembered was her sister's cold voice. "She is a burden. Let the ground take her." Zira had begged them not to do it. She had cried, she had reached out, but they didn't listen. They covered her with soil while she was still alive. And then the footsteps faded away. Now she lay under the ground, feeling the weight of it crush her chest. Her lungs screamed for air. Her fingers shook as she tried to claw upward, but her weak arms barely moved. Fear burned through her like fire. She couldn't see. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't even call for help. "Please. Someone." She whispered, but the soil swallowed her words. Minutes passed like hours. Zira felt her heartbeat getting slower and slower. She wondered if this was the end. She wondered if her family would celebrate her death. She wondered if anyone would even notice she was gone. Just when hope began to die completely, something changed. She heard a sound. A soft crunch. Footsteps, not alien footsteps. These were heavier. Human footsteps. Her heart jumped. She tried to make noise, any noise. Her hand twitched against the soil. Her nail scraped a rock, making the faintest sound. She didn't know if the human could hear it. She didn't know if she was too deep. But she kept trying. She pushed her weak fingers again and again into the dirt dot above ground. Evan walked alone through the quiet valley. He was returning from a supply run, just a backpack on his shoulders. The area was empty, silent. But then he stopped. He turned his head. He heard something so light he almost thought he imagined it. Tap, tap, scratch. He knelt down slowly, pressing his ear to the ground. The sound came again. Scratch, scratch. Someone was under there. "Hello?" Evan called. "Is someone down there?" Zira heard the voice. A human voice. She tried to cry out, and a tiny puff of dirt escaped her lips. It was enough. Evan felt the soil move under his hand. He grabbed his shovel from his bag and started digging like a madman. Soil flew in all directions. He didn't care if he hurt his hands. He didn't care if something dangerous waited under the earth. Someone needed help. That was enough for him. Zira felt the weight above her getting lighter. Fresh air touched her face. A crack of light broke through. Her chest rose with one deep, painful breath. Finally, Evan's hands touched her skin. He gasped, "You're alive. Hold on, I'll get you out." He pulled her from the ground, lifting her into the open air. Her body was cold, weak, covered in dirt. She blinked, staring at him with wide alien eyes filled with fear and shock. The first person to save her was not her family, not her people. It was a human stranger, and this rescue was only the beginning of a much darker truth. Evan gently placed Zira on a flat patch of ground and brushed soil off her face. Her skin was pale and cold, almost gray under the evening light. She stared up at him with wide, shaking eyes. She looked terrified, confused, and somehow embarrassed, as if being rescued was a crime. "It's okay," Evan said softly. "You're safe now." Safe. Zira didn't know that feeling. Not from her family. Not from anyone. She tried to sit up, but her weak arms trembled. Evan quickly supported her back. His touch was warm compared to the cold ground she had been buried in. For a moment, Zira felt like she was dreaming. "You heard me?" she whispered, her voice soft and broken. "I heard something," Evan replied. "Didn't know it was a person underground." He paused. "Did someone do this to you?" Zira looked away immediately. Her throat tightened. She didn't want to say the truth. She didn't want to say that the people who buried her were her own blood. She didn't want to admit how useless and rejected she had been all her life, but Evan waited patiently. He didn't push her. He didn't force her. He simply stayed by her side. "My family," Zira finally whispered. "They buried me." Evan froze. "Alive?" She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. He clenched his jaw. He had heard stories about cruel alien clans, but this was different. This was pure cold betrayal. Why would they do that? He asked in a gentle tone. "Because." "I cannot walk," Zira said, touching her paralyzed legs. "I slowed them down. They said I was weak and useless. They wanted to remove shame from the clan." Evan felt anger burn in his chest, not the loud kind, but the quiet, steady kind that said this is wrong. He looked at her fragile body, her trembling hands, her exhausted eyes, and he made a silent promise. "No one has the right to throw you away," he said firmly. Zira blinked, shocked by his words. No alien had ever spoken like that to her. Not even as a child. Evan opened his pack and took out a small blanket, wrapping it around her shoulders. Zira stiffened at first. She wasn't used to kindness. But the warmth felt like a soft shield around her. "You need water," he said. He held a bottle to her lips carefully. Zira drank slowly, her body shaking each time the cold water touched her mouth. "Why? Why are you helping me?" she asked. Evan smiled slightly. "Because you need help, but you don't know me. Don't have to." Zira stared at him for a long moment. Humans were strange to her. Her people always expected something in return. Every act had a purpose, a benefit, a price. But this human seemed to help simply because he wanted to. She didn't know how to handle that. Evan lifted Zira into his arms. She gasped softly, surprised by his strength. "I'm taking you somewhere safe," he said. "You shouldn't stay here." "No, my family might return," she whispered with fear. "That's exactly why we're leaving," he replied. He walked through the valley, holding her close, step after steady step. Zira watched the sky slowly darken. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was sinking deeper into darkness. She felt like she was rising out of it. When they reached a small cliffside shelter, Evan set her down on a soft bed he had made from layered blankets and woven leaves. It was simple, but far kinder than the cold soil she had been buried in. Zira looked around and then at him. "You won't leave me here?" she asked quietly. Evan shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere. You survived something terrible. I'm going to help you heal." Zira's chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from something warm and unfamiliar. For the first time in her life, someone stayed. For the first time, she wasn't alone. And deep in the shadows of the valley, someone else watched someone who knew Zira had survived. The night air around Evan's small shelter was cool and quiet, but Zira could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw soil falling over her face again. She felt the weight of the earth pressing down on her chest. She heard her sister's voice telling the others to walk away. She shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. Evan noticed and sat beside her with a small lantern. "Talk to me," he said softly. "If you want to." Zira hesitated. In her world, speaking about family shame was forbidden. But she had already died once, and this human had pulled her back into life with his own hands. She felt she owed him the truth. "My family hated weakness," Zira whispered, staring at her hands. "In our clan, strength is everything." A body that cannot move is seen as broken. Evan listened quietly, giving her space. When I was a child, she continued, my father refused to carry me. He said I would learn to crawl faster if no one helped. My mother avoided looking at my legs. My brothers mocked me, my sister. She pretended to care, but she was the one who told them to bury me. Her voice cracked. They said I brought shame to the bloodline. Evan clenched his fists. He wanted to say they were monsters, but he didn't want to upset her. Instead, he asked, was it always like this? No, Zyra said. Not always. She looked up, her eyes distant. When I was little, my grandmother loved me. She said I was strong in other ways. She taught me stories, songs, old wisdom. A small, sad smile crossed her lips. But she died. And after her, no one protected me. Evan felt a deep ache in his chest. He couldn't imagine growing up with no one to rely on. You didn't deserve any of that. Maybe I did, Zero whispered. Maybe I slowed them down. Maybe they only did what was necessary. Evan leaned forward. No, they made a choice. And it was wrong. Zira's eyes filled with tears again, not of pain, but confusion. She wasn't used to anyone defending her. Evan stood up suddenly. I'm going to check something, he said. Stay here. He stepped outside, lighting another lantern. Zira waited nervously. She didn't know what he was doing, but she trusted him. She didn't want him to disappear into the night like everyone else had. After a while, Evan returned with a small cloth bag. He sat beside her again. I found this where you were buried, he said. I think someone dropped it. Zira's breath caught. She took the bag with shaking hands. Inside were small metal tokens, family marks carved with symbols. She recognized them instantly. My sister's taken mark, she whispered. My father's seal. My brother's hunting badge. Why would these be there? Evan asked. Zira stared at the objects in horror. They used these as proof. Proof that they completed the burial. They must show the council that the shame of the clan is gone. Evan felt blood rush through him. So this wasn't just cruelty. It was planned. Zira nodded slowly. Yes, a planned burial. A secret decision. Evan looked toward the dark valley. Then they'll be back. They'll want to make sure you're really dead. Zira's hands tightened around the tokens. For the first time, her eyes didn't show fear but anger. A quiet, burning anger she had never allowed herself to feel. They wanted me gone, she said softly. But I am still here. Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. And I'll help you stay here. As long as it takes. Zira looked at him with new strength in her eyes. She had been buried. She had been abandoned. But now she had someone who believed in her, and this time, she wasn't going to hide from the truth or from those who tried to erase her. Morning came slowly, painting the sky with pale colors. Evan stepped out of the shelter, letting Zira rest inside. He needed to think. He needed a plan. He knew her family wouldn't stop. They had tried to bury her once. They could do worse if they found her alive. When he returned inside, Zira was awake and staring at her legs with a strange expression, not sadness this time, but determination. I want to stand, she whispered. Evan blinked. Your legs, they're paralyzed. I know, Zira said softly, but I'm tired of lying down, tired of being pushed aside. If I cannot walk, then I want something that helps me move. Her voice shook, but it carried strength he had never heard from her before. Evan knelt in front of her. I can build something. Zira looked up, surprised. You can? I'm a mechanic, Evan said with a small grin. Machines listen to me better than people do. For the first time. Zira gave a tiny smile. Evan worked outside the shelter for hours, searching through scrap parts from old mining sites and abandoned cargo crates. He used his tools to bend metal pieces, attach joints, and create a simple support frame. Sweat ran down his back, but he didn't stop. Inside, Zira listened to the sound of clanking metal. Each strike felt like hope being built piece by piece. By noon, Evan finally walked in carrying a rough but strong exoskeleton brace, 2 metal supports shaped to hold her legs, locked together with belts and a shoulder strap. "It's not perfect," he said, "but it should help you stand. At least a little." Zira stared at it with wide eyes. No one had ever made something just for her. Not a gift, not a tool, nothing. She felt her throat tighten. "Help me try," she whispered. Evan carefully placed the braces on her legs, tightening each strap gently. Zira winced a little, but her eyes never left the frame. When everything was fitted, Evan took her hands. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she said honestly, "but try anyway." He lifted slowly, and Zira's body rose with the exoskeleton's help. Her arms trembled. Her breathing grew sharp. For a moment, she thought she would fall. Then she felt something solid under her feet. She was standing. Her legs were weak, and the braces did most of the work. But she was upright, something she hadn't been in years. Zira gasped, a sound mixed with fear and joy. I'm up." Evan smiled softly. "Yes, you are." Zira laughed. It was small and shaky, but it was real. She looked around the world from a new angle. It felt powerful. It felt right, but the moment didn't last long. A twig snapped outside the shelter. Evan instantly moved in front of Zira, motioning her to stay quiet. He picked up a small metal pipe as a weapon and stepped toward the entrance. The bushes rustled again. A shadow moved where no shadow should be. Evan's voice was low. "Someone's watching." Zira felt cold fear crawl up her spine. "My family. They found me." "Maybe," Evan whispered. "Or someone else." Suddenly, a stone rolled across the ground as if someone ran quickly through the trees. Evan took one step out, scanning left and right, but the forest had already swallowed the movement. "They know you're alive," Evan said, returning inside. "And they won't stop now." Zira tightened her grip on the bed frame, her legs still shaking from standing. But her eyes had changed completely. "No more fear, no more helplessness. They buried me once," she said slowly. "But I rose from the dirt." She looked at Evan with a fierce spark in her eyes. "And I will do it again." Evan nodded. "Then we stay ready." Outside, in the forest shadows, a pair of alien eyes watched the shelter with silent anger. The hunt had already begun. Night settled over the valley like a heavy blanket. Evan closed the shelter door and checked every corner twice. The strange figure who had watched them earlier still disturbed him. Zira sat near the lantern, her new exoskeleton legs resting beside her. She had practiced standing 2 more times that day, each attempt making her a little stronger. But strength was not enough. "Not anymore. Evan," she whispered, "they will come for me." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm not letting you out of my sight." Zira looked down. "You shouldn't risk your life for me." "I already did," he replied softly. "I'm not stopping now." Those words warmed her chest in a way she didn't understand. No one had ever spoken like that to her. No one had ever stayed. Suddenly, Evan's expression sharpened. He motioned for silence. It was faint at first. A soft crunch. A whisper of movement. Then a low growl, not human, not animal but alien. Zira's blood turned cold. "My brother," she whispered. "He makes that sound when he tracks prey." Before Evan could respond, the shelter wall shook violently as something hit it from outside. Evan grabbed his metal pipe. "Stay behind me." The next hit cracked wood. A claw pierced through the wall, dragging downward with a scraping sound that made Zira's skin crawl. "They found us," she breathed. The door burst open. A tall alien male stepped inside, his eyes glowing in the dark. Zira recognized him instantly, her older brother, Kaver. Kaver's gaze landed on her legs first, then on Evan. His lips curled in disgust. "You survived," he growled. "Father will not be pleased." Evan moved in front of Zira. "She isn't going anywhere with you." Kaver laughed, a cold and cruel sound. "Move aside, human. This does not concern you." "It does now," Evan said. Kaver lunged forward faster than Zira expected. Evan barely dodged the swipe of Kaver's claws. The alien struck again, sending sparks off the metal pipe as their weapons clashed. Evan gritted his teeth. He had fought animals before, but never something this strong. "Stop!" Zira cried, struggling to stand. Her legs trembled as she pulled the exoskeleton onto her body. Evan ducked as Kaver swung with full force. The blow hit a wooden beam, splitting it in half. Dust filled the room. Zira coughed, her vision blurry. "You dare protect the clan's shame?" Kaver snarled. "She is not shame," Evan shouted back. "She's alive. And that's what matters." Kaver roared and charged again. But this time, Zira was ready. With a painful effort, she stood. Her legs shook violently, but she held her ground. "Kaver," she said, her voice trembling. "I am done being afraid." Her brother turned toward her. His eyes widened, shocked she was upright. "You can stand?" "Not because of you," Zira said. "Because someone cared enough to help me." Kaver stepped toward her, raising his claws. Evan tackled him from the side, knocking him to the ground. The two rolled across the floor, smashing into crates and tools. Evan fought with everything he had, protecting Zira with every breath. Zira grabbed a metal rod from the floor. Her hands shook, but she lifted it anyway. Kaver threw Evan off and charged toward her again. Zira swung the rod. It wasn't strong. It wasn't fast. But it was the first time she fought back. The rod hit Kaver's shoulder. He roared in pain and stumbled. Evan grabbed Zira's arm. "We need to go now." Together, they escaped through the back of the shelter into the forest. Branches whipped past them. Zira leaned on Evan as they moved deeper into the darkness. Behind them, Kaver screamed in anger, promising he would find them again. Zira's breath trembled. But her eyes were firm. "I will face them," she whispered. "One by one." Evan nodded. "And I'll be right beside you." The chase had begun, but so had her fight for justice. The forest swallowed Evan and Zira as they escaped through the dark trees. The moon hid behind clouds, and every shadow felt like it moved. Zira leaned on Evan, her metal braces clicking softly with each weak step. Her breath was shaky, but her eyes were sharp with focus. "We cannot keep running forever," Zira whispered. "I know," Evan said. "But you need time to recover." Zira shook her head. "I need justice." They continued deeper until they reached an abandoned hunting cabin. Evan checked inside carefully. The place was old, dusty, and falling apart, but safe enough for now. He helped Zira sit on a wooden bench. "We'll rest here," he said. "Your brother won't track us instantly." Zira looked down at her trembling hands. "He will come. And others will come too. Then we'll be ready," Evan replied firmly. After some time, Zira asked Evan to fetch water from a nearby stream. He hesitated, not wanting to leave her alone. But she insisted. "I can protect myself for a few minutes," she said. Gripping the metal rod she carried from the shelter, Evan finally agreed and headed toward the water. Zira sat quietly, listening to the forest. Every rustle made her heart jump. But she forced herself to breathe slowly. She was done being afraid. A soft tapping sound came from the window. Zira froze. The tapping repeated, slow, deliberate. Someone was outside. She tightened her grip on the metal rod, forcing her body to stay steady despite her shaking legs. "Who is there?" she called out. A voice answered, low and familiar. "Zira." her stomach dropped. Sira. Her older sister stepped into the doorway. The same sister who had ordered her burial. The same sister whose eyes had always looked at Zira with quiet jealousy and cold superiority. Sira entered the cabin slowly, hands raised. I am not here to fight. Zira didn't trust her. Why are you here? To warn you, Sira said. Father is furious. He believes you are still alive. Kaver failed to kill you. Now Father will come himself. Zira felt a cold wave roll over her. Let him come. I am not the same anymore. Sira sighed. You think strength comes from standing? You think wearing metal on your legs makes you powerful? No, Zira, you were born weak. Nothing changed. Those words cut deep, but this time, Zira didn't break. Instead, she sat taller and looked her sister straight in the eyes. I am not weak. I survived being buried alive. I survived our brother. And I will survive Father. Sira stepped closer, her face twisted with anger. You should have stayed underground. She reached behind her cloak, pulling out a knife. Zyra's heart raced. She backed away, but her legs were slow. Sira stepped forward with cold calmness, raising the blade. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the knife from behind Sira. Evan. He twisted her wrist, making her drop the weapon. Touch her again, he growled, and I'll make sure you never try it a second time. Sira gasped, stunned. She had not heard him return. Zira exhaled in relief. Evan stood between them, his eyes filled with anger. You people don't deserve her. Sira hissed, she is ours. She belongs to the clan. No, Zira said firmly. I belong to myself. Sira's eyes widened. For the first time she looked truly afraid, not of Zyra's strength, but of her voice. Her confidence. Her courage. Evan tightened his grip on Sira's arm. Tell your father this. If he comes for her, he won't leave the forest alive. Sira pulled free and stepped back. Her expression was shaken, confused. You'll regret this, she whispered, before slipping into the shadows. As soon as she vanished, Zira's breath trembled. Evan rushed to her side. You okay? He asked. Zira nodded slowly. Yes. Thanks to you. But she wasn't shaking anymore. Not from fear. Her eyes were burning with something stronger. I faced my sister, she said softly. Next, I faced the one who planned it all. Evan nodded. And I'll be with you. In the cold forest night, Zira finally understood. Justice was no longer a dream. It was coming, and she was ready to deliver it. The forest grew silent as night thickened around the old cabin. The wind slowed. The insects stopped. Even the trees felt frozen in place, as if they knew something dangerous was coming. Evan stood at the door with a metal bar in his hand, watching the shadows for any movement. Inside, Zira sat on the bench, her exoskeleton strapped tight. She inhaled deeply, steadying her shaking breath. Tonight would not be about running. Not anymore. Tonight was about truth, and ending what her family began. Zyra, Evan said gently, you don't have to fight him. We can escape to the mountains. Zira shook her head. If I run now, he will hunt me forever. This must end here. Evan looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Then I'm with you. Zyra's eyes softened. I know. Suddenly, a deep thudding sound echoed across the forest floor-heavy steps, slow and powerful. Evan gripped his weapon tighter. He's here. Zira whispered. A tall figure approached through the trees, emerging into the clearing with frightening calm. Zira's father. His massive frame carried authority and cruelty in equal measure. His eyes glowed like cold fire as they landed on Zira. So, he said in a deep voice, the ground refused to keep you. Zira's heartbeat pounded, but she stood up, supported by her braces. I am alive because someone believed I deserved to live. Her father's gaze shifted to Evan. "A human," he said with disgust. "A weak outsider who plays hero." Evan stepped forward. "Weak doesn't bury his own daughter alive." The father's eyes narrowed dangerously. "She stained our bloodline." Zira felt something rise in her chest, finally not fear, but anger shaped as strength. "I was never the shame," she said. "Your cruelty was." The father took a step toward her. "Your mother agreed to remove you. Your brothers agreed. Your sister agreed. The clan agreed. You were a burden, Zira. We only did what was necessary." Zira stared at him, her voice trembling with emotion. "Necessary? You call burying your own child alive necessary?" He raised his hand as if to silence her. "You will return to the ground tonight, permanently." Before he could strike, Evan moved like lightning, swinging the metal bar. The father blocked it easily, his strength overpowering. The clash sent Evan stumbling back. Zira gasped. "Evan!" Her father turned toward her. "After I deal with him, I will finish you." Zira forced her trembling legs to move. Every step hurt, every muscle shook, but she pushed forward. "No," she said. "This time, I protect him." Her father charged. Zira lifted the metal rod with both hands. Evan pushed himself up to join her. Together, they faced the towering monster of a man. The fight was brutal. The father's strength shook the cabin walls. Evan dodged claws and blows, rolling across the floor. Zira swung her rod again and again, fueled by every memory of pain, every insult. Every moment she wished she had vanished. Finally, when her father pinned Evan against the wall, Zira found her courage. She screamed and charged forward, slamming the metal rod across her father's back with all her strength. He stumbled. Evan seized the moment and struck his knee, sending him crashing down. Zyra stood over him, breathing hard. Her father looked up, shocked, because for the first time, he saw a daughter who refused to break. "You buried me," Zira said quietly. "But I rose." She didn't kill him. That was not who she was. Instead, she dropped the metal rod at his feet. "You no longer have power over me," she said, "or over my life." Her father tried to rise, but Evan stepped in front of Zira like a shield. "It's over," Evan said firmly. "Leave." The father looked at them both, at the bonded strength they shared, and for the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. He backed away slowly, disappearing into the dark forest. When he was gone, Zira collapsed into Evan's arms, exhausted but alive. "You did it," Evan whispered. "You faced them all." Zira weakly smiled. "No. We did it." The dawn began to rise, painting light over the forest. Zira leaned her head on Evan's shoulder. She was no longer buried, no longer forgotten, no longer weak. She had survived because a human believed she mattered. And now, her new life, her true life was just beginning.